Good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to talk about keto and how it works. I've been effectively preaching keto for the past 2 years now, and I'm still surprised at how confusing some people find it to be. And for me, it's always been fairly simple, so I want to take the time to explain to you today in the way that seems to make most sense for me, and I hope with that knowledge you'll have a better understanding of how it works, and hopefully you'll be interested in trying it, because like no other diet, it has truly changed my life, my lifestyle, even my emotions. It's only had positive effects. First, let me tell you a little bit about my weight loss journey / just my history and how I felt about my body most of my life. I have always been chubby. I was my entire life, and I never felt really great about that. My mom was always nice to me, and my girlfriend always found me attractive, but my personal feelings about how I felt about my body and health were always something I struggled with. And in many conversations, I found that I wasn't the only guy that felt that way. I think a lot of people think it's more of a trait that women feel. That's just simply not true. I think everyone wants to be happy with how they look and how they feel. In my time trying to figure it out, which has been, I've been pretty unhappy with how fat I was since I was 13, and it wasn't really till around 25 that it kept getting worse and worse, and I wasn't taking anything proactive about it. And I've done many fad diets. I've never been able to maintain those long enough for any real success. So I can't really speak to any of them. I would imagine anything focused over time will work, but most studies also show that almost all calorie restrictive diets have no long-term studies of success. We're not meant to undereat every day. It's a test of willpower, and it's only a matter of time before you fail, and you're just not getting enough nutrition, so it's probably not the healthiest option either. I found my first real success with Tim Ferriss's slow carb, and that really opened me up. He taught a lot of interesting knowledge on the Glycemic Index, which put simply is how foods trigger how fast they burn. And the faster they burn the blood sugar, the higher your insulin response is going to be. That can vary a lot with your genetics, obviously, but at its core, bread translates very quickly. It almost immediately becomes glucose and blood sugar, so your insulin response will be very quick. Where beans and fibrous greens, because they burn slower, they metabolize slower, so your body does not need as much of an insulin spike. And I did that for almost 6 months to a year, and loved it. But it plateaued, and I'd found I'd found a lot of ways of eating far less carbs through doing that, but still very carb rich. I think there was a 6-month period where I would make a new chili every Sunday, and it was my lunch and dinner every single day for 6 months, and I lost a lot of weight, but I also looked really sickly. I remember a conversation where my partner was just like, "I don't like how you look, Tristan," but I was so happy with the number on the scale, I couldn't even hear that. And when I look back at pictures, yeah, it wasn't very pretty, but I had seen success, and that was important. And from there, I'd gone to a more Atkins style, and I remember at its highest point, I was eating something like 200 grams of protein every day, minimal carbs and 0 fat. Still kind of looked sickly, but I was really tired almost all the time. And it was at that point where I found out about keto. And at this point, I'm, 28. Oh wow, I've been doing keto closer to 4 years. I should pay more attention. I had found, I was just like, I can't keep eating all these turkey burgers. They don't taste good. I'm still always hungry. It was messing up my digestive tract, and I was still chubby. I lost a lot of weight, but there was still a lot of fluff within that sveltness. It was still a muffin top, but a drawn-in face. And through learning keto, I had learned really one primary principle about diet that I had not really fully learned up until this point, and that's what I want to share with you right now that you kind of get an idea of my history and what I've experienced, which has actually been quite interesting. I don't really take too much time to look back at it. I'm kind of always running forward. So we all understand insulin. And if you don't, we all know someone who has diabetes or have heard someone that does. And if you don't know, what they take is insulin on a regular basis. At its core, diabetes is your body's inability to create insulin, and that's a real problem. I don't think most of us take the time to understand why, but it's very simple. Whenever you eat any form of carb, anything glucose or fructose, your blood sugar immediately rises. Insulin is the hormone that tells your body to start removing that blood sugar from your blood. It's not good if it's high. Your blood wouldn't work if it was syrup. Sugar is sticky, and if you've ever gotten bread wet, it almost becomes mortar. That's not going to work in our veins. So this is where insulin comes in, and it's a lifesaver. It all of a sudden resets our body and says, oh, wait a minute, we're going to stop trying to burn this sugar. We need to either get rid of it, or we need to store it as fat for those times when we're not eating for days upon days like we did through most of our evolutionary history. I think that's something we also want to take just a moment to consider. Food has not actually been that plentiful for the entirety of the human species. Feast and famine was really more commonplace than anything else. So I don't want to get distracted. I get really excited about talking about this, but to get a better understanding, I need to stay focused and really convey a straightforward message. So if insulin stops your body from burning sugar and either stores it as fat or tries to get it out of your system, primarily through poop, it's a simple fact. Everything we shit is unprocessed food. So what can't happen? Well, you can't burn fat. You can't burn fat and store fat because insulin is a high priority hormone. It takes over everything your digestion is currently doing. And now you're strictly either on getting rid of food, which anyone who you've seen can eat all they want and doesn't seem to gain any weight. They don't have a crazy metabolism. Their insulin triggers them to get rid of more food than it does store more food. And it's pretty much on a spectrum of how well you store fat and how well your insulin works in that method. So keto is a extremely low carb diet. And by doing this, you're really taking over your hormones again. You're not letting insulin decide what you look and feel like. You're actually eating healthy fats, healthy proteins, and carbs that are really all dark veggie greens. They're more fiber than anything else. They're very micronutrient dense, allowing us to get all the building blocks for life. We make new cells every day, and we need those to make them. And there's a good argument for fiber for the microbiome, but again, that makes it more complex than it needs to be to understand how ketosis works. By pulling back and really controlling the amount of carbs you eat on a daily basis, your body is now finally free to do what it's meant to do: process fat and process protein. And that is actually a liver-based process, which has almost nothing to do with insulin. Insulin is your pancreas. It's an entirely different organ. But our livers, they are actually what allows us to process fat, not only our body fat, but digested fat. And over time, when you severely reduce your carbohydrates, your liver's finally given the opportunity to do what it's always meant to do: burn fat. And as it gets better at it, just like when you first start jogging, you can only make it 10 feet before you've got to stop and catch your breath. Your liver takes its time. Well, it doesn't take its time. It adapts as fast as it can. And it starts to learn how to not only metabolize fat, but mobilize body fat. But it has to be given the opportunity. And so few people give their body the opportunity to do that it's very hard to see. And then when you compound it with hunger, which is another hormone worth knowing about, it's called ghrelin. I always laugh when I first heard it because ghrelin gets you growl. And anyone who's been really hungry, they can be hangry, where they're just emotionally mad because they want mouth pleasure. Or for other people, their body tells them they're going to die. If you don't eat, you're going to die. And that's just simply not true. It sucks that our body feels that way, but that's just an evolutionary byproduct of really making sure that we do find food to eat. But when you're eating every day and 3 to 4 meals a day that all have carbohydrates, your body doesn't know long term. It just knows its current now. It's always living in the now. So when ghrelin spikes, you're just like, if I don't eat, I'm going to die. But if you waited 15 minutes or you were busy at work, that would go away. The only reason you would be tired is because your body hasn't had the opportunity to learn how to process fat to give you the extra energy. And when I first learned this, it really blew my mind. And as I did more research in how insulin does affect your body and how much water you retain, there's so many negative aspects to constantly triggering your internal hormone insulin that it's crazy that there isn't more people at least trying ketosis. And we live in a great time where the science is available and it is very popular, and I'll take the popularity, whatever it takes for people to live a happier, healthier life. Because I have to say, in my experience, living a keto lifestyle, a very low carb, high fat, medium protein, has only made me happier. I have better focus. I have better emotional regulation. I can finally look in the mirror and just feel good about what I look like. And it doesn't require that I eat less or go work out at the gym, which I hate doing. I do because I want to be functionally strong, but I don't want to work out to lose weight. I don't want to have to pay to eat. I want to eat foods and let my body stay at what its natural hormonal weight would be, which for most people is very healthy looking. We just don't really give ourselves the opportunity. So I hope this information has been useful, and if some of it's confusing, leave a comment. I really nerd out on this stuff, and sometimes I can get a little too information heavy or get distracted, but that's why I made a 14-day keto weight loss course where I took the time to really organize the information and give you keto-friendly meals, as well as the best timeline to help yourself lose 10 pounds in as little as 14 days. And it's incredibly exciting because it gives me the opportunity to really help so many more people, and I'm grateful for that. If anyone can get the feeling that I get to feel from learning about keto and getting fat adapted, it makes it all worth it. So thank you guys for taking the time to learn a little bit about keto and insulin and a wee bit about ghrelin. Hell yeah, life is good. If you don't feel good about how you look or how you feel, I believe that this is the best method to change that. It's a little bit of work, but I promise you, almost everything else you've done before is probably more work, and it was way less satisfying. So let's give this a try, and let's go. Have a great day. Stay awesome.